What if your child's explosive meltdowns, mood swings, or even intense anxiety had nothing to do with their behavior and everything to do with a hidden bacteria in their gut? I'm talking about Clostridia, specifically C. diff, which is a gut imbalance that's being missed in so many ADHD cases. And today I'm going to show you what it is, how to spot it, and what you can do to fix it naturally. Welcome to the Soaring Child podcast, where parents of children with ADHD learn tips and tricks to help their child soar at home, at school, and in life. We feature interviews with experts, medical professionals, and parents just like you who are learning how to reduce ADHD symptoms using food and other natural strategies. Because children with ADHD deserve to soar just like every other child. I'm Dana Kay, your host. Hello, parents, and welcome back to another edition of the Soaring Child podcast. I'm your host, Dana Kay, and today we're diving into a topic that is rarely talked about, but absolutely essential if you want to get to what's really driving your child's ADHD symptoms. We're talking about something called Clostridia overgrowth, specifically a type known as C. diff, and why it may be the missing piece in your child's healing journey. So many parents I work with, they're doing everything right. They've cleaned up the diet. They've added a few supplements. They've maybe even started some therapies, but their child is still struggling with these big emotions, sleep issues, or chronic meltdowns. And often the root of the symptoms is hiding in the gut, which you've heard me talk about a lot on this podcast. But I want to show you a story, okay? A mum in our program, let's call her Sarah. She came to us completely exhausted. Her son had been through 3 different medications, 2 therapists, and had spent thousands and thousands of dollars on random supplements from health food stores and Instagram ads. Actually, hold on. Am I talking about my journey with my son? No, I'm actually talking about Sarah, but my journey sounds very, very similar, and it probably sounds very similar to many of yours that are listening out here today. Look, for them and for us back in the day, nothing was working. And the most heartbreaking part, she told me, she said, Dana, I don't even recognize my son anymore. He's angry all the time. He can't sleep. I feel like I'm losing him. So we ran an organic acid test, and it's one of the functional lab tests that we use inside our ADHD Thrive Method for Kids program, along with a few other functional lab tests. And what we found was shocking, but also incredibly validating. Her son had extremely high levels of Clostridia bacteria, including C. diff. And once we started addressing it with targeted support, including a specific probiotic strain called Saccharomyces boulardii inside a gut healing blend that we use called Gut Restore Essentials, everything started to shift. So maybe you're listening and you're thinking, what in the world is C. diff? Back in the day, I had no idea. You may have heard of it, you may never have heard of it. By the end of this episode, it will all make perfect sense to you. So let's get started. So Clostridia, it's a family of bacteria that live in the gut, and while some strains are harmless, others can cause major problems. C. diff in particular is known for being really aggressive. It creates toxic byproducts that disrupt neurotransmitters and increase inflammation and wreak havoc on your child's brain and behavior. It's kind of like, the bully in the gut, pushing around the good bacteria and creating this chaos and making it almost impossible for the brain to function properly. But here's the thing. Most traditional doctors won't test for Clostridia overgrowth unless your child has obvious digestive symptoms like chronic diarrhea. But what I have learned after working with over 1,500 kids with ADHD is that the signs are often neurological and emotional. There is even emerging research suggesting a link between the gut microbiota imbalances and neurodevelopmental disorders, including ADHD. And some studies have found that children with ADHD or autism may have altered gut flora, including higher levels of certain Clostridia species. More research is definitely needed because, the evidence is largely correlational, not causal, and the gut-brain axis is complex. But what we do know for sure is that gut bacteria can influence neurotransmitter levels like that dopamine and that serotonin. So gut health is a really big deal. So here are some of the red flags I see all the time in children with C. diff. Now, as I list these off, think about your own child and count how many of these symptoms they have. So, frequent meltdowns or emotional outbursts, extreme anger or aggression that, comes out of nowhere, anxiety that seems to escalate for no reason, sleep disturbances, sensitivity to noise or touch or transitions, history of antibiotic use or gut imbalance. Now, that's not to even talk about the gut symptoms that can come as well. Now, I'm curious, how many of these symptoms did your child have? The truth is, they could have only one and still have an issue with C. diff. And these symptoms are often misdiagnosed as behavioral or emotional problems, but the real issue is sometimes biological. When Clostridia levels get too high, they produce compounds that block the enzyme needed to break down dopamine. Okay, and here's what's really fascinating and a little alarming about the process. Several Clostridia species, including C. difficile and C. sporogenus, produce a compound called HPHPA. It stands for something big, 3-hydroxyphenyl, 3-hydroxypropionic, oh my gosh, total tongue twister acid. And this compound, along with another one called P-cresol, can actually inactivate an enzyme called dopamine beta hydroxylase, or DBH for short. And that enzyme is responsible for converting dopamine into norepinephrine. So what happens when DBH is blocked? Dopamine levels shoot up while norepinephrine levels drop. And this exact scenario has been observed on many, many, many different organic acid tests. And when the imbalance is happening, we'll often see an elevated ratio of dopamine breakdown products like HVA to norepinephrine breakdown products like VMA in the urine. So in other words, the biochemistry is showing us that there's a dopamine surplus and a norepinephrine deficit. So why does this matter? Okay, because dopamine excess, especially when it's not properly metabolized, can be linked to hyperactivity, agitation, and even psychotic-like behavior. And low norepinephrine in the brain, that's associated with poor attention, low mood, and high anxiety. Clinically, this all lines up with a lot of symptoms of ADHD. So many kids with Clostridia or overgrowth experience OCD-like repetitive behaviors, extreme agitation and irritability because their neurotransmitters are completely out of balance. Now, Dr. James Greenblatt, many of you know that from my training and fellowship with him, he talked about this in detail. He said that even just a 20% elevation of HPHPA can have profound effects on the nervous system. It can absolutely cause behavioral dysregulation, agitation, and severe mood swings in children. So if you've been wondering, well, why is my child suddenly flying off the handle? Or why do they go from calm to meltdown in 30 seconds flat? This could be one of the missing links. No amount of parenting strategies or therapy or meds will work until we address what's happening in the gut. This is one of the reasons I love the organic acid test, or the OATS test for short, with the families that I work with. And the OAT test is one of my absolute favorite tools because it really helps us look deep inside your child's biochemistry. We're not guessing. We're looking at metabolites that give us a window into gut bacteria, yeast overgrowth, mold, neurotransmitter imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, detox pathways, and mitochondrial function. And yes, it's one of the only tests that reliably picks up markers of Clostridia overgrowth. Oat panels include specific markers for Clostridia. So we've got that HPHPA, we've got 4-cresol, and we've got some other ones in there as well. And these compounds are not easily identified via standard stool tests, but show up in urine if Clostridia in the gut are overproducing them. So for example, an elevated HPHPA, I love saying that word, HPHPA. It really just flows off the tongue. So that elevated HPHPA on an organic acid test is a red flag for Clostridia overgrowth, since only certain Clostridia produce HPHPA. Now, additionally, oats often measures neurotransmitter metabolites like that homovanillic acid, the HVA, so that's the dopamine metabolite, or the VMA, which is the norepinephrine metabolite. So by looking at the ratio between the HVA and the VMA, practitioners can infer if dopamine breakdown is excessive related to norepinephrine, which is a pattern that, as I was just discussing, might occur when Clostridia toxins block dopamine conversion to norepinephrine. Whew, I hope this is not too complicated. I hope it's making sense. If you do not understand any of this, or if you want me to clarify, reach out to me on any platform. Send me an email, drop me a DM on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm here and I can explain it in detail. So in short, the oats test can reveal both the presence of Clostridia metabolites and their effects on neurotransmitter levels in the body. I will say, though, if your child is taking ADHD medication, it will incorrectly elevate and reduce the neurotransmitter levels on the organic acid test, because as you can imagine, those ADHD medications and SSRIs, so depression and anxiety medications, they are actually making changes to the neurotransmitters that are going on in the body. Now, I think the best part, especially when you're talking about doing this test on a child, is that it is so easy. It's a simple urine test that you can do from home. I'll actually add a link in the show notes for more information about my favorite functional lab test. So definitely check that out if you would like to learn more. And I just want to say this clearly. If your child is dealing with extreme behavioral shifts or anger or sleep disturbances and nothing else has worked, this test might hold the answers you've been searching for. Now let's talk about, well, if we find it, how do we support the body once Clostridia overgrowth is identified? First of all, you don't necessarily need antibiotics unless it's a real severe acute case. Of course, we always recommend, if you've got questions, talk to your physician or your health practitioner. But in our experience, it is often possible to bring the gut back into balance without using antibiotics, which, as you may already know, can kill off not just the bad bacteria in the gut, but also the good bacteria as well. In our business, in our practice, we focus on natural, science-backed strategies that support the gut's ability to rebalance itself. Our body is an amazing thing, and when we can give it the tools it needs, it can do what it needs to do. Now, one of my favorite supplements to use when I see C. diff is something called Gut Restore Essentials. Gut Restore Essentials is a probiotic supplement that combines well-studied and widely used probiotic strains. In particular, we've got that Saccharomyces boulardii. That's the core element of this probiotic. It's also got Bacillus subtilis HU58 and Bacillus clausii SC109. Now, this combination of probiotic yeast and bacteria offers comprehensive digestive flora support with an advanced sort of dual action approach to really maintain that balance, that healthy intestinal environment. That Saccharomyces boulardii, you might have heard it being called SAC-B, is well studied. It's extensively used for its ability to support digestion and immune function. It's a beneficial yeast that really kind of crowds out that Clostridia. It crowds them out, gets them out, and helps rebalance the gut microbiome. However, a product containing only Saccharomyces boulardii has limitations with regards to other probiotic function as well. And so Gut Restore Essentials represents a significant advancement that overcomes these limitations with those additions of that Bacillus subtilis H258 and the Bacillus clausii SC109. So it has the ability to effectively colonize in the digestive tract in order to provide that immune support. So you can learn more about Gut Restore Essentials on our site. I'll add it to the link in the show notes. And I just want to pause here to say this clearly. Most pediatricians are not looking at the gut when it comes to ADHD symptoms. They're not talking about Clostridia. They're not doing organic acid testing or thinking about the microbiome at all, but we are. I've trained extensively in this work, and not just through my experience with over 1,500 families, but also through my fellowship under Dr. James Greenblatt, one of the pioneers in this integrative gut psychiatry, gut-brain connection. And what I've learned is this: when we take ADHD symptoms seriously as biological signals and not just behavior to be managed, we open the door to real and long-lasting healing. Now, if this episode sparks something for you, here's what I want you to know. You are not imagining things. If your child's behavior feels extreme, if their mood seems unpredictable, if their sleep is a nightmare and anger is constantly simmering under the surface, it's not just how they are. You just don't have to accept them for as they are. This doesn't have to be your life. Their body may be sending out very real distress signals. So here are a few practical steps that you can start today. Step 1. Start observing patterns. Pay attention to your child's behavior after certain foods, medications, or emotional triggers. Sometimes gut-related symptoms show up as rage, regression, or anxiety, not always as tummy aches. Step 2, support the gut gently. Consider starting with safe, targeted tools like Gut Restore Essentials. These can begin rebalancing the gut microbiome even before testing. If you plan to do testing though, I would consider waiting until you've done the testing. Step 3, explore that functional lab testing. If you're ready for real answers, not just guesses, the organic acid test is a great place to start. And we offer this test through the ADHD Thrive Institute, and it comes with guidance so you're not left trying to interpret it on your own. And finally, step number 4, know that you're not alone. The conventional system may have failed to connect the dots, but that doesn't mean you're out of options. There is a path forward and you don't have to walk it alone. Now, if this episode spoke to you, here's what I'd love for you to do. First of all, share this episode with a fellow parent who needs to hear it. Leave a review on your podcast app. It really helps parents find this life-changing information. And finally, don't forget, this episode is part of our supplement series that we started way back in December 2024. So be sure to check out the other episodes in this series if you haven't already. We've got deep dives on multivitamins, omega-3s, probiotics, herbs, and so much more. Each of these episodes are linked in the show notes below, and you'll also find cheat sheets for every single supplement episode, and they're linked in the show notes to help you choose the right supplements for your child without the guesswork. I'm so glad that you're here and that you're tuning in today to learn more about C. diff and Clostridia. You guys, you're doing the hard work, you're doing the brave work of advocating for your child's health, and I want you to know it matters. You are an amazing parent to your child. Listeners, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Soaring Child podcast. I'm Dana Kate, your ADHD health practitioner. Keep on thriving. Thank you for listening to the Soaring Child podcast today. To learn more about how to help your child with ADHD soar using natural strategies, visit our website at adhdthriveinstitute.com and follow us on social media at ADHD Thrive Institute.